us. We are very, very excited to have you all here today. So we are here to celebrate Donna Barbara Higuera, who won the 2022 Newbery Award. And we are also joined by Tay Keller, who is the 2021 Newbery Award winner. Before I hand it over to Martha Brokenborough, who's going to be helping moderate today, I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who came out tonight. We are just very, very excited to celebrate with you. And a big thank you also to the Seattle Public Library, who is live streaming for us. And without any further ado, I will hand it over to you, Martha.
Thanks, Margaret. I'm so glad to be here we've got a Newbery, we've got an Oldberry. And it feels so meaningful to me to be with you all at a bookstore after spending the last 2 years inside this peculiar pocket of misery that we've been inhabiting. You don't need me to remind you about it, but as we stand here together, maybe not quite 6 feet apart anymore, it feels especially meaningful to be here, surrounded by writers and illustrators, surrounded by stories, celebrating a book at its heart. It's about the necessity of stories for human beings. 2 books, really. I mean, this is Donna's night to celebrate her Newbery for The Last Quintista, but we're also celebrating Tay, who's our outgoing laureate for When You Trap a Tiger. Have no doubt, the center of gravity for the children's book industry is right here. These books remind us that stories are what makes us human. They ground us, no matter how far we travel or what shape the ship is, Donna. Stories live inside us and somehow manage to light up the world as well. And just as important, they keep us from turning into jumbo prawns. Before I turn things over to Donna for a reading, I want to tell you about the first conversation that she and I had. And this was some number of years ago. I don't remember how many it is, but we were sitting at a table at a book event with our mutual publisher, Arthur Levine. And Donna, I didn't really know, she said to me, I know what your next glasses look like. I'm like, what? Huh? And she showed me her phone, and she said, see, look. And she's right. It turns out Donna is not just a writer. She's not just a friend. She's also an eye doctor. And I did get those glasses, and I've gotten 2 more pairs, and my husband and one of my daughters also goes to see Donna in her other life, and we all know, it's established that she's a wonderful writer, right? She's also a wonderful person. At the very beginning of the pandemic, my young daughter, her glasses disappeared. Now, my older daughter blamed the dog. But I think my younger daughter, I think Lucy, the older one, wanted to lose the glasses that she thought were dumb on Alice. So anyway, here's Alice. Alice can't see without glasses, and we're in a pandemic. We're in total lockdown. And so I messaged Donna, and she got me a whole bunch of contact lenses for Alice. And she's been wearing contacts ever since, and Lucy is very happy about that. Anyway, this is who Donna is. She is a children's literature visionary. She's done comedy, she's done sci-fi, she's done a picture book. She helps take care of us and our eyes and our vision, and I am so grateful to know her, to be in her presence, to celebrate her tonight. She's going to read a little bit from The Last Quintista.
Chapter 1. Lita tosses another piñon log onto the fire. Sweet smoke drifts past us into the starry sky. Her knees crack as she sits back down on the blanket next to me. The cup of hot chocolate with cinnamon she's made sits untouched this time. I have something I want you to take with you on your trip, Hitva. Lita reaches into her sweater pocket, since I won't be there for your 13th birthday. She holds out a silver pendant in the shape of the sun. Its center is filled with a flat, black stone. If you hold it up to the sun, it glows through the obsidian. I take it from her hand and hold it up, but there is no sun, only the moon. Sometimes I try to imagine I can see things I really can't. but I'm sure a faint glow filters through the middle of the stone. I move the pendant back and forth. It disappears completely when I move it too far from the center of my vision. When I look back, Lita is motioning to an identical pendant around her neck. You know, she says, Yucatecos believe obsidian holds magic, a doorway to bring lost ones together. She purses her lips, her brown skin wrinkles toward her nose like cracked bark on a tree. They shouldn't force me to go, I say. You have to, Petra. Lita looks away for a long time before she speaks again. Children are not meant to be separated from their parents. Your dad's parent, he should stay with you then. We all should. Even as I say it, I know I sound like a little kid. She laughs a deep, soft chuckle. I am too old to travel so far. But for you, Dios mío, a new planet? How exciting. My chin trembles and I bury my head into her side, squeezing her around the waist. I don't want to leave you. Her stomach lowers with a deep sigh. Somewhere, off in the desert, behind Lita's house, a coyote howls, calling for its friends. As if on cue, the chickens cluck and one of her fainting goats bleats. You need a cuento, she says, referring to one of her tall tales. We lie back and look up at the night sky. The warm desert wind blows over us as Lita pulls me into the tightest hug ever. I never want to leave this spot. She points up to Halley's comment. From here it doesn't look so dangerous. Había una vez, she begins her story, a young fire snake Nahual. His mother was earth, his father the sun. A Nahual snake, I ask? But how can the sun and earth be parents to something part human, part animal? Shh, this is my story. She clears her throat and takes one of my hands in hers. Fire Snake was angry. His mother Earth fed and nurtured him, but his father, the sun, stayed away. His father would bring crops, but he also brought great drought and death. One very hot day, a sun loomed over the Nahual. Lita waves her arm toward the heavens. He challenged his father. Even though his mother begged him to stay with her forever, the young fire snake sped off toward his father. Lita remained silent for a moment. I know this stall is part of her strategy to keep me in suspense. It works. Then what? She smiles and continues. With his tail flaming behind him, Fire Snake gained speed until he could no longer slow himself. But as he approached his father, Sun, he realized his mistake. His father's flames were far more powerful and stronger than anything else in the universe. The Nahual looped around his father, speeding back toward his home, but it was all too late. His father's fire had burned his eyes, so he could no longer see. Lita clucks her tongue. Pobrecito, blinded and moving so fast he could never slow down. Never able to find his mother. She sighs. Now comes the part in all her stories where her voice becomes lighter, like she's casually giving directions to the corner panaderia. So every 75 years, he retraces the journey, hoping to reunite with her. She points again at the fire snake, close enough to sense his mother, but never to embrace. Except this time, I say, heat running up my back. Yes, she says, pulling me closer. In a few days, the fire snake will finally find his mother. Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado, she says, ending her cuento.
Okay, so now we get to move to the exciting in conversation portion of our evening. So Donna is going to be talking with Tay Keller, who, as you know, won a Newbery Award for When You Trap a Tiger. She's a New York Times best-selling author. Another book is The Science of Breakable Things. I saw the themes of some books that she's working on, and I'm very, very excited for them. Tay was born and raised in Honolulu, where she grew up on purple rice, spam musubi, and her Haimonis. How do you say that? Haumani stories. After high school, she moved in search of snow, and now she lives in Seattle, where she won't find that much.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for reading that. I remember when I first read your book last year, and just from that first chapter, you could really tell that it's something special. And so I'm really excited to be here and to be celebrating with you. And
Thank you.
we actually met, like, I don't know, when was this?
Mark and I just talked about, we think it was 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, we had dinner together.
Yeah, this was before either of us were published. And so I kind of feel like it's like we're coming up together. And it's so cool.
What if we think back on that, and that if someone had told us on that night when we were sitting having dinner, the future, we would have not believed it.
I know, yeah.
Maybe it was something we ate that night.
It's like go back, find
Yeah.
out the game, like share the secrets. Yeah, so I have a lot of questions for you. And I know that you have had a very big couple months. I know it's a lot of emotions. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
So first, I just want to ask, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm surprised at how I'm managing. I've heard from a lot of past winners that if you need to reach out to me, let me know. And I understand why. It's there are a lot of people that want to talk to me, and I'm like, "Why talk to me? Like, what do I have to tell you? What is it? What is so important?" But it's been a lot. But it's also there's writing still. There's writing to do, and so trying to find that balance has been a little bit difficult. But I'm finding it. I have a good support system.
Good. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just found out that you're an eye doctor just like 5 minutes ago. That's amazing. A visionary in many senses. So how has your day-to-day life changed? Like, how are you balancing this public Newberry stuff and then the writing and then being an eye doctor?
Well, I always did get up early in the morning to write before I went to work, and it was already in the plan. My youngest is leaving for college this year, and so I'm a little bit in mourning over that, but I knew that I was going to cut back with my regular day job that I still adore and love, and I love my patients, they're like family, but I knew that I was going to be transitioning and writing more. And so while I still get up early in the morning, because if I work and then come home to write, the two sides of my brain don't want to work well together and I can't write. So it hasn't changed all that much, but deadlines are a strange motivator, and knowing that you have a deadline looming, you have to write, and you have to, even when you're tired, you've got to keep going. So there's that.
Yeah, there's that. Okay, so I'm sure that you've gotten asked this a million times, but it's the question. So the Newberry Call.
Oh,
Can
yes.
you walk us through this? How did this happen? I know it was over Zoom.
It was over Zoom, and traditionally, the Newberry Committee, from what I had heard, is they call people in the middle of the night, the night before, because it's the Newberry Committee. They're calling, of course you would wake up, but oftentimes, and they'll call over and over until you answer the phone. And so, but it was not something that was even on my radar because it's a sci-fi. And, the other part, I believe, aside from A Wrinkle in Time, which was like 50 years ago now, The Giver, maybe a little bit of sci-fi. There really haven't been any sci-fi Newbery winners, so it was not something I was expecting at all. And, but what happens, the publisher knows a few days in advance. So they very stealthily said, there's an emergency meeting we need you to go to on Zoom this weekend. I'm like, this weekend? And they said, well, actually there are two. And I'm like, on a weekend? And they said, yes, the team that you're meeting with, it's about Lupe Wong won't dance and they have to do it on the weekend. Whatever they told me, I bought hook, line, and sinker. So I got on a Zoom call on Saturday and I said, this is way too many faces to discuss a paperback version of a book. And then I started looking around and seeing smiling faces, and then I saw my editor and people were looking a little emotional. And then they told me that they were actually the Pura Belpré committee. And so of course, that was how the first call came through. And very emotional, total surprise. I wasn't expecting that either. And got off the phone and had a conference call with the people at my publisher, and we were all crying. It was this huge event, and I said, okay, so is tomorrow the real meeting? And they said, yes. And they doubled down, they lied to me twice, and I bought it both times. And so the next day, I get on this Zoom call, faces pop up again, and I saw that it was the same name as the day before, and so it must have been, from the ALA, the American Library Association. And so I grabbed my phone thinking, I hit the wrong Zoom. So I'm frantic. I go, I'm so sorry. And I'm trying, and they're going, no, you're in the right place. And then the gentleman said, his name is Tad, I know this now, I didn't know at the time, he said, this is the Newberry Committee, and you know that feeling. It's so like this, I still get emotional, it's this flood of emotions, and you realize these people have read thousands of books just to get to this point, and they're crying, and they're emotional, and so all those emotions kind of transfer to you when you're hearing this news. And yes, I was completely awkward and cried, and I think I talked to them about their eye strain from reading too much. I don't know what I said, but I know I was really awkward when they told me.
Did they record your call?
Yes, they did. I did not know, and they didn't ask if they could record me. And so I look back, but I'm actually really glad now. I look back, I mean, yes, I was really awkward and it was awful, but I'm so glad that I could see that moment and the look on my face and the shock. And yeah, it was a lot.
That's great. Okay, so you get the call, and then the rest of the world still doesn't know, because they find out the next morning.
And they swear you blood oath
Yes.
to secrecy. You are not allowed to tell anyone. You can tell your family, but you can't tell anyone.
Right, so that's kind of my question. So it's the night before. Do you tell anyone? I mean, we won't tell.
So I might have told a few people. So, of course, my family was there, and I told them. I called my father, and he said, "Oh, honey, that is wonderful." He goes, "You know, I've been pruning the tree in the backyard." And I think he just didn't quite get what I had just said to him, because he went on to talk about his gardening day. And so when he was done, I said, you know, I tried to explain to him, and he understood. And now he's completely my biggest fan. He goes, "Oh my gosh," my dad goes to newspapers and says, "You need to read this book," and he'll go to the local news station and he hands my book to people, and so he's so excited now. I called my daughter who's in Chicago, so I did call a few people and let them know. And I may or may not have told my critique group. I had to tell them. Can you imagine? I mean, they're my other family. They're my book family. And I've been with this critique group for 10 years. And we are all so different. And we all write so differently. But we really love each other. We fight all the time, but just like a family. So I did let them know. But that was it. And I swore them blood oath. So we were okay.
Okay, that makes me feel better, because I also told my writing.
Oh, thank you. We're fine. Safety in numbers. They
I texted them and I was like, "I have something really big to tell you, but I can only tell you over FaceTime." And they all thought I was pregnant, and I was like,
Well, I came out crying, and Mark thought that the dog had died or something because I was crying. But you want to share it so badly, and those are your family members too. Like writers, it is a solitary venture most of the time when you're writing on your own, but then when you get to meet and share your work, it's a very kind of a vulnerable thing when people read those words, and so you get very close. So yeah, I did. And what are they going to do? They're not going to take it away now. We're okay.
Okay, so I have more questions about Newberry stuff, but I also want to talk about the Pura Belpré. So you got that award. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, this makes me really emotional. So the Pura Belpré is an award that goes to a writer or a work of a Latino character or writer, and it is to win the medal was it's huge for me. And growing up, I grew up mixed race as you did, and oftentimes you feel a little bit like, am I enough of this or enough of that? And so to have the work acknowledged was a huge, like, just a welcome. Like, it felt very warm and welcoming to have the Pura Belpré committee acknowledge this book, but also the stories that are so much a part of me and, you know, my culture, and to see that other people share that meant a lot. So it was very emotional, and yes, I was just a big mess crying. I cry all the time, but I cried to the Pura Belpré committee, I cried to the Newberry committee. It was just a big cry fest. But what I didn't know, they didn't know about each other. So the Pura Belpré committee didn't know that I'd won the Newberry and vice versa. So when I was on the Newberry call, I said, "Oh, fool me once." And then they were like, "What is she talking about?" I thought I'd said something really profound, and I'm like, what does that even mean? But yeah, so it was huge, but they felt very different for different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so meaningful just reading your book and knowing it got that award too, because I know there will be mixed race kids reading it, and then being able to see that sticker on it too is validating to them.
Well, and I'm sure you have as well, but I've already had kids say that is me, like I am that character in that book. And even with Lupe Wong, who kind of represents my own children who are, have another, race, they're also Chinese. And so to hear kids get to see themselves in these books and feel like they're part of that, it's such a special feeling, I think, as a writer.
I love that. So what has been the best part about, there's so many great parts, right? What's been the best part so far about winning the award?
I think for me, the best part has been the people that I get to talk to and the reach that it's had. So for instance, after this tonight, I need to hop on a school visit call from 8:30 to 9:30 in India. And so for me to be able to talk to kids all over the world, that is just something that I never thought possible. And I'm sure you've done the same. And you realize, I mean, we're really fortunate that, not that we've been in a pandemic, but that we've learned to be able to talk virtually and speak virtually with people all over the world. And it's not a big deal to go press a button and you're across the world. And so for me, I think that's been the most special part. But also when kids ask questions and you see that your book has in some way resonated with them and that they've really taken it to heart. And I guess I feel like when I was a kid and would walk in the library and saw the books with the gold sticker, like you thought there's something magical because it's got a gold sticker. It's like, like getting your Willy Wonka bar and there's a golden ticket. And so I think that, just having kids read the book and feel like they connect with it's huge. And then to have kids from another part of the planet do the same, that's amazing to me.
Are there any questions or particular responses from kids that have really stood out?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there are some of the stories in the books that are universal in Latino culture. It's really interesting because there are kids who will say, I know that story. And I think that oftentimes when I was growing up, I might read about the story or hear parts of the story from a relative and then read about it myself. I thought I was the only one who knew it. And so now to have kids reading this book that I wrote with these things that felt so personal, and to see that they weren't so personal, other people know about them too. And they ask questions about, to me, that's the way I can connect with kids in that way. Those questions about that has been probably the best part so far.
I love that. And I was really curious about the folktales and the stories in this book. So I'm wondering, is it just that you remembered these stories from when you were growing up and then you kind of brought that memory into the book? Did you go back and research these folktales? Did you invent parts of it? How did you bring those
so a little bit of all of that.
Yeah.
So some of the stories were stories that I'd heard bits and pieces of. My grandmother was a huge storyteller, and she's definitely Lita in this book. And that scene is completely an homage to my grandmother and our relationship. And so that opening scene when she's telling that story, the fire snake is a real mythological creature, but the way she made up the story, that was just me making up a story about it. So that story is not real. That was just me trying to make something up, often, kind of like Lita and Petra do in the novel. But some of the stories in the book are based in ancient mythology and folklore, but oftentimes, and I did exactly what oftentimes happens, is that as people travel and migrate to other parts of the country or the world, those stories change and they take on the flavor of the storyteller or their environment. And so the stories in the book, while some of them I might have heard bits and pieces when I was a child, and then I researched and read more about them either during the writing of this book or just on my own later, I changed them. And I was worried a little bit about that because there are people who are purists about mythology and folklore. But I don't think that that's always because mythology just changes through time, especially in the tradition of oral storytelling. And so that was one thing I wanted to show is how these stories changed with Petra and what was going on with her situation in the book. And so she kind of like spun the truth a little bit to make them her own. The word cuentista means storyteller in Spanish, but to say the word cuentista also has a connotation that the person telling you the story might not be completely reliable. They might be twisting the truth just a little bit or spinning the story. And so that was what I wanted to show with Petra too. So while, yes, these stories are based in real stories and some are made up, but they all start somewhere, I think, and whether it's in something we might have just heard in passing in our imagination and just takes it to another level.
I love that. When I was thinking about folktales and When You Have the Tiger, it was kind of this similar thing where I was afraid to change these stories that I grew up with. But like you're saying, stories change. That's kind of the beauty of them.
Yeah.
And I love that kids, it's still recognizable to them, even though you change things.
Oh, sure, and I think, the tale of, it's Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl that's in the story. When I first saw the picture, I was a kid and I saw the image in a Mexican restaurant. And it was just this big velvet painting of this warrior by volcanoes, and there's a steaming volcano, and he's guarding this woman who looks to be dead, and now we think she was. But it's a very sad story, and so I knew, and it was just me seeing this picture and then wondering what it meant, and then seeing it as well in a relative's home. Nobody told me the story, but I had to go find out what had actually happened. And sometimes that's how stories happen, just us trying to figure out what they mean on our own. And and many of the stories were that way, but others were ones that I had heard.
Lovely. So speaking of how stories change, I'm sure that this has been through a lot of revisions.
Yes.
What is something that changed over the course of revisions that might surprise readers?
So this is interesting. So when I first wrote this, it was very plot driven. And it was, this happened and it was action, and there wasn't a lot of the folklore and mythology. I would allude to it because I knew that Petra wanted to be a storyteller, but I think I was nervous. I think I was nervous to share those stories because I think people would think it was weird. Like, how is Mexican folklore meld with sci-fi? How do those two things go together? And I think that was my own insecurities about myself and who I am. I'm a huge sci-fi geek. I'm a Trekkie, and I grew up, watching Twilight Zone and, reading sci-fi. And so, but I also had this other part of myself, and I think that I set out to write kind of an action sci-fi book, but the stories kept going, hey, what about us? What about us? And then as I was going through revision, the editor said, why are you not writing a story here? We want a story here, and we want another one here, and we want another one here. And so there were things that ended up on the cutting room floor that were more plot driven, and we kind of switched gears and definitely made it more as a story about what was closer to her heart, which were these stories.
Great. Love that. So, a major thread in this book is that the collective is afraid of stories from the past, and they're afraid of difference and how that might be dangerous. And unfortunately, that is something that we have seen a lot of recently in the news with book bannings in schools. So what would you say to that? What's your response about the book bannings?
Wow, hot topic. Sorry. So it's funny because today I was doing a school visit, well, not school visit, it was with the King County Library System, and there were 30 classes, and there was a question from a student of, when you were writing this, did you know what was, did you write this because of what's going on in the world right now? And it's such a great question, but as you know, books take years to come to fruition, and so much of this was not going on when I was writing this book. And it gives me goosebumps now because part, I think many of the themes in this that erase, the, erasure of ideas and books and the things that humans love and cherish is repeating itself. And I think that it was one of those things that made it into this book because it's probably one of the things that I fear the most. I fear losing the things that I love the most. And if this character is leaving for another planet and the thing that's most valuable that she wants to take with her is stories, and then suddenly that is threatened, then, and I put it in this book and then wow, it's happening again. And so it's scary. It's scary that this is happening, and I think that I've read lots of the books that have been on banned book lists, and like you said, I think oftentimes it's coming from a place of fear or misunderstanding where somebody doesn't either relate to that person or their culture or their race, and so which is easier, to try to understand it or to just erase it and push it to a back corner? And that's what I see happening, because I've seen those lists, and many of the writers, yes, they're my friends, but I'm not biased. I've read their work and it's beautiful, and to think that those books will be banned because somebody has decided that that's not their life experience is very scary. And so yeah, I think it's really bad today what's happening. So, the irony of this book addressing that topic specifically in a very different kind of way is obviously coincidental. It wasn't, it wasn't written by design. I didn't know the future.
Right.
No.
But I mean, it's wonderful that kids can have a way to think about what's going on now through your book, and that hopefully reading it sparks so many conversations, but also conversations about what's happening in the world around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is it that you would want readers to take away from this book?
I think mostly I would want readers to take away the idea that their stories are valuable, and that we all have different stories, and that your story is different than mine, and every person in this room has a different background and a different story, and they're all equally important, and that we shouldn't be ashamed of those stories ever. And especially for kids, I want them to say every part about themselves, and or write about it, and be proud of their background and where they're from and their culture. And I think that's part of what I want people and kids, because it's not just kids. It's so funny because it's not just kids reading the book, which obviously it's written for middle grade and young adults, but I have adults, and from so many people are having it as a book club book, and strange things are happening. But if they can take away that their stories are valuable, but also that what it means to be human, like Martha was saying earlier, just how we should treat one another and have empathy for one another, but because this book does speak specifically to what it really means to be human. And if we take away our planet and we're going somewhere else, what would we take with us, and what's the most valuable to each individual?
Okay, and then, so just I have one last question for you before we take more questions. But we talked about what's been the best thing about winning, but what has been the most surprising?
The number of people that want to talk to me. It's and I think oftentimes we think of our own lives as being really boring and mundane, but and people want to know my dog's names, and there's all these things. They're so interested, and I think that part is strange, because I was just sitting in my office writing my book and going to work, and then all of a sudden people want to know about that. And so I think that's probably been the most surprising thing, because I don't think I'm so interesting. So sorry if this was recorded. But yeah, I think that's been probably the biggest surprise to me. But also, I think that the people who have reached out to me, other writers, past Newbery winners, and I guess it's not, because I know how giving and kind people are, but it's just surprising how many people are actually reading this book that just started with a little writing prompt, and just how a few sentences can just blow up into something like this.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so now, we're going to take questions from the audience, and I'm also monitoring my text because, as you know, we're live streaming to Facebook, and there might be some questions there, but does anybody want to start us off? Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
In both of your novels, I love all of your characters. Like, they're so interesting and diverse and quirky and lovable and also weird. And I just wonder, what's your process for developing a cast of characters? I don't know if you call it a cast in a book, but I would love to hear more about that.
So oftentimes when I'm writing, and I have a mic.
You're good. Can you repeat the question so that we're sure
Oh,
that
so the question was that in books with characters who seem to kind of all have their own journey and have a unique character, how do I come up with a cast of characters who, I hope I'm asking the question, who seem diverse and they each have their own story? And while I always start with my main character, the friends kind of come into play, but I also ask myself as I'm writing a scene, what kind of person would I put in this scene with my character to make there be more tension or have it be more interesting? I don't want it always to be someone they would get along with. And then I think I just kind of, it's just my imagination thinking of characters and what is their backstory? And a lot of times as writers, we might write pages and pages of backstory on a character that never ever makes it into a book, but it helps us develop and know who the character is in our mind. So even now when these books are out there in the world, I sit and daydream all the time, not about the books, but about the characters and what they're doing right now, because they become very real to me. I daydream a lot about Lupe Wong and her friends, and because they're so funny to me, they just get into trouble all the time. But I think that once I start writing them, they really do take on a life of their own. But I ask myself as well, what are their interests? Sometimes it makes it into the book, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, do you have a question?
Yes. What inspired you mostly to do both of your books? How did you get to that creative vision?
Well, so the first book is funny because my Lupe Wong Won't Dance came out of my daughter coming home from middle school one day, and she was upset that she was going to have to square dance in PE. So first of all, we were all sitting at the table, and at first I was like, okay, well, wait a minute, there's still square dancing in PE. And then she was upset that she couldn't dance with Gracie. She was going to have to dance with a boy. And so it just got me thinking about this. I mean, at the time, I don't even think she'd held a boy's hand or anything. I think the whole thing, but I realized I probably felt the same way when I was her age. So this character popped into my mind who just kind of spoke up for kids like myself and my daughter and said what was on their mind. And Lupe isn't always the most likable character, but that was kind of where that idea came from. I created this character who said what all of us are thinking a lot of the time. And then the last Quintista is interesting. It was a writing prompt. The question was, take a traditional fairy tale and make it sci-fi. And I just felt like Snow White and Cinderella always got a lot of airtime. And I'm like, well, who doesn't get a lot of airtime? Oh, I know who, that princess in the that gal, she doesn't, no one ever talks about her. So I wrote a story about, it's so cheesy now. It was a short story, and it was called The Princess and the Pea, but that was PEA, for Pellet of Extended Animation. And it was about this girl who's, going into the future, and they inserted this little pellet of extended animation, and she didn't fall asleep. And just the idea of that, I'm like, wow, that's really cool, and it haunted me. And later, that concept of it, I just kept going with that concept, and so that's where and oftentimes I think that's where ideas for stories come from, off of just a writing prompt or an idea for something, and then over time they just snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Thank you. That is a very good question.
So we've got a question from Shannon on Facebook, and I'd like both of you to answer it. How long do you write in the morning before you head to work?
Well, I try to get up before my daughter does. She leaves at 7:12 every day, so I try to get up and get it like an hour in before her. And it depends a little bit on how much of a deadline I'm on, if I can motivate myself to get up. But so normally it ends up being a few hours before I go to work. But then now I'll be cutting back a little bit at my day job, so I'll have full days to write now.
Oh no. I write full time. I don't get up very early. So probably start writing around 10. And then I'll write for probably 4 or 5 hours. When I first started writing full time, I had this idea like, okay, now I'm gonna write like 10 hours every day. And I started doing that, and then I burned out so fast. And I had to realize that writing full time doesn't mean that I'm literally always writing. And that a big part of my job is still reading. And I need to still be reading in order to know how to write books. So that's still something that I consider a big part of my job, and I'll read for a few hours at least every day.
Oftentimes when I am writing, I'll just, because I envision scenes in my head like a movie, and I will just be laying there with my eyes closed, and my husband will go, "What are you doing? Are you napping?" I go, "No, I'm writing." And so, that counts too. So.
Related to this coming from a writing prompt, what are writing exercises you both like when you are, or if you are, experiencing a creative block?
Ooh, good question. Writer's block. I will say, and this is going to be really unpopular because I know a lot of people get writer's block. I've never had writer's block. I can talk until I'm blue in the face, and I just write. Even if I'm not writing, if I'm writing, I can have a writer's block, because if I'm working on something and a scene's not coming together, I try it a different way. I will just scrap that idea entirely, throw it away, and start over. And I will do the same thing if I'm working on a project and it doesn't seem to be working. I go work on something else, and then that seems to kind of loosen something up, and I can always come back to it.
Yeah, I think that is great. It's kind of just working on something else for a minute and taking the pressure off and switching gears a bit. I bought a bunch of those word magnets, and I put them all into a box, and then I will, if I'm completely blocked and I'm just like, I need to write, but I cannot write the book that I'm supposed to be writing, I will pick out just randomly a couple words, and then I'll say, okay, how can I make a story out of these 3 totally random words that I pulled? And that's kind of a good way to get things going.
Yeah.
Tay, I read your book, Science of Breakable Things. It was wonderful. Donna, I read Last Contista. They're both such engaging, moving stories, and I think you both sort of push like we can read just a diverting, entertaining book, but you guys both take your books to a different level, I think, which is not easy to do, and keep the pages turning. I'm wondering what drew you to writing for middle grade audiences, both of you. There's lots of audiences you can write for, but what is it specifically about that age group that you want to write books for that audience?
Well, I know the answer for myself. I think that it's my way of dealing with stuff. I think it was the most awkward age for me. And so it allows me to go back and address things that maybe I left unaddressed in my life. And so I've tried writing for different age groups, and even my picture books, deal with things that I dealt with as a younger child, and I get to address those. Like, my book El Cucuy is scared too. El Cucuy is the Mexican boogeyman, and he's horrifying. Well, this was my way of getting revenge on El Cucuy and say, I'm going to make you adorable and in a picture book so that you can no longer haunt my dreams. And so I think oftentimes as writers, we don't even know we're doing it, but we're writing to something maybe that we need to address for ourselves. But for me, I feel most comfortable there. I've tried writing young adult, and I think I guess middle grade is just the sweet spot for me. But obviously I think it's because for me I was most awkward at that time.
I'm really glad you said that, because I always joke, like, I write middle grade because I'm processing my middle school trauma. Also, I think that before I started writing middle grade, I tried to write young adults. And I tried writing all of these practice books that were like, they're about teenagers, and it just never felt like I was writing honestly. And I kind of on a whim started writing what became the Science of Breakable Things. And instantly, it just felt different. And I think it's because I was tapping into this version of myself that hadn't had all the defenses and all the walls up yet. And it was that time in my life when I was moving out of childhood, but I wasn't an adult yet. And so I had all of these questions about how do I fit into the world, and how do I do this thing? How do I do this thing called life? And I was still so open and vulnerable about asking those questions and trying to understand the world. And so I think when I write for middle grade, I'm really tapping into that vulnerable place of asking those big questions and not being afraid of the answers. One from Facebook from Celeste. Donna, can you talk about Dreamers by Juji Morales and how it is part of your book?
Yes, I would love to. So in the book, Petra's brother, Javier, has his favorite picture book, and that was one thing that he took with him on this journey. And when I was first writing the book, Dreamers wasn't out yet. And so I tried different placeholder books, and I tried to incorporate those books into what would have been happening with my book. And then at one point I read Dreamers and just goosebumps, and I said, oh my gosh, this is the book. Well, of course, when you're writing a book, you don't think, oh, this book is going to be published and I'm going to have to deal with the fact that I used the mention of another writer's book in my book. And so I just left it, and then we got to final edits and we realized you can't just leave someone else, a mention of someone's book. So we did have to get permission. And so I'm so glad that they allowed us to use not many, but maybe one or two sentences from her work. But it's extremely powerful, and it speaks to journeys, and it speaks to going to different places and having a fear of going to another world, or in the case of the book Dreamers, to another country, and being a migrant of some sort. And it just fit the book perfectly. So, but I do know, I love that people are buying my book, and they're also buying Dreamers so they can read them side by side, because it does have such a huge tie with the character. So, great question. Thank you.
There's another Facebook question from Alyssa. What resources would you recommend for authors interested in writing science fiction?
Ooh, that's tricky. There aren't really a lot of books on writing science fiction. There are some. I think there's one called the Big Book of Writing Science Fiction or something. But I don't know of like a lot of different books. But I would think more so reading sci-fi. Oh my gosh, I have lots of favorite authors, but read some Ursula Le Guin and Bradbury, and just even like so many amazing short stories, and just kind of but writing for children is a little bit different than writing for adults. We were talking earlier about this, and how I was listening to Fonda Lee, who's just this amazing sci-fi writer, and she writes both adult and children's books, and she was saying how when in a children's book, when you're writing about a spaceship, a kid doesn't care about how the spaceship runs or what the propulsion system is. You have to go into all those details with adults, or they get really angry. And so, but a kid doesn't care, and it just took this huge weight off my shoulder. I'm like, oh, I don't have to know how the spaceship works. So I love that, right? And so it's different, you know, writing sci-fi for different ages is a little bit different, but I don't know that there are books specifically on it. I think that there are books on writing craft that are just amazing, and there are so many to go into that I, you know, couldn't list them all. But I would say read sci-fi and then just read books on craft, and sci-fi is great because you're making your own stuff up. You can write whatever you want. You know, there has to be a kernel of truth so people believe you, but
Information about engines.
yeah, there's engine stuff, and yes.
All right, one last question from Suma. What's coming next for both of you?
I am working on something. I'm on a deadline for a book that may or may not be in the same universe as Petra, and it's a different character, but it's not yet announced, but will be very soon, and it's a totally different character, but maybe it's a book about what happened on Earth after the comet struck.
I am so excited about that. I have a book called Jennifer Chan is Not Alone, and that's coming out at the end of April. It is a book about bullying and also searching for aliens, which was so fun to research. And it's about asking really big questions. It's about asking what else is out there? Are we alone in the universe? And also, what else is in here? What does it mean to help people and hurt people? And how do we be a good person? So, yeah, I'm excited about that.
I love it. I do have a picture book coming out as well next year, The Last Cuentista, and there will be another El Cucuy. Feliz Navidad, El Cucuy. So, we're taking him to Christmas this time.
All right, we're going to take a minute, and Margaret is going to get a special video that we have put together for this evening.
Give us a minute.
We'll just need a minute.
As an aside, I'm a huge Alien fan. I love ancient aliens. I love all things aliens, so I'm so excited for your book.
I didn't know much about aliens before I was researching, and now I'm fully like a believer.
Oh, there's so many alien shows I can tell you about. It drives my family crazy, but yeah.
Okay.
They're definitely real.
All right, here we go.
There's
Oh,
So our speakers aren't very loud, so we'll have to be pretty quiet. And I'm just going to go ahead. Speakers are...
We do get louder than that.
Let me give another shot.
yeah. The unofficial name for this party is the Donorama.
Do you want to take another question while we try to sort
Yes, I have another question.
Hurry, someone has your question.
Yes.
In terms of what you're both reading on your phones, you have any
So shout outs for Under the Radar books.
Oh, well, right now I'm not reading too much because I'm in the middle of edits. I read so many. Oh gosh, this is the worst question to ask me because I've got a pile by my bed and I could list them off. Do you want to answer it first and then I'll think of one that's...
Yeah, there's a book, a middle grade coming out end of April called Zia Erases the World by Brie Barton, and it's really good. The concept is there's this girl who finds a dictionary and she can erase a word and it just erases that from the world. So she's like, oh, I got a bee sting, and then like, we'll erase bees. And I just think it's such a cool concept. And it's also about depression, so she's suffering from depression. So her trying to figure out how to erase that feeling from the world. And that's one that I really love that's coming out soon.
One book that I recently read that's coming out that was really interesting, it's by David Bowles, and what is the name of it? It's the Witch Owl Parliament, and it's a graphic novel, and it's young adult, and it's so creepy and weird and wonderful. And yeah, that was fun. I can't remember if it just came out or it's coming out very soon. I read an advance copy, and it was great.
Okay, you're in charge of that and then first feedback. Okay, we're gonna try it. We might want to grab that mic from you. And hopefully we don't create a crazy feedback loop that, yeah.
Hey John, that's everything here. I just want to say a huge congratulations on winning the Newbery. I'm so excited for you, so many of us are. And I hope you have an incredible year. I also hope you don't try to put too much pressure on yourself. Just tell the stories you want to tell and continue to have fun with writing and have joy in it. So congratulations, best of luck, and an incredible year.
Hola, Donna, it's Meg Medina. Felicidades, hermana. I want you most of all to enjoy the ride. Keep a scrapbook, keep all of the memorabilia so you can put it together in one place for yourself, because things are going to happen so fast, it's going to be easy to forget. You know, this is going to be a beautiful year, and I want you to know your worth, both as an artist and just like moving through publishing, know your worth. And also give thought to what you want to do with this light. It's a gift, right? And we have it just this torch for a little while. So give some thought to what you want this to mean to you and what you want to give back to the community as a result of this beautiful honor. It's kind of a scary exercise, but it's also really a rich one. Congratulations. Well deserved.
Congratulations and welcome to the Newbery Medal Club. So, I am Jerry Crabb, author and illustrator of the Newbery Award-winning graphic novel New Kid. And who else can say that now? You. Well, not New Kid. So anyway, welcome. Here are a few things that you might not know. First of all, the medal is actually bigger than most people realize. It's about 25 pounds. It's unbelievable. You can't wear it around the neck like this. You get to see your books like this. Fools, they grow in here. And bookstores, some of them have an award section, so you'll be there for the rest of your life and beyond. Because it's a very well-known book. Does it? And then there will be posters. So next year, this poster will have a book up there. And also, you, when you and I exchange Newbery Award-winning books, look at the classics that are up here. Your book and my book will be up there. Okay? Wrinkle in Time, The Giver, Johnny Tremaine, Coles, Hello Universe, One and Only Ivan, Marcy Suarez, Why Not Funny, Roll of Thunder, You're My Prime, Charlotte's, oh wait, Charlotte's, sorry, that's very honest. So, that's it. Again, congratulations. I couldn't be happier for you. Wish I was there in person. But I will meet you, and then we'll do that whole performance. Bye.
It's me, Kelly. I'm coming to you from Snowy, Minnesota, because our friend Martha wanted me to give you a message of congratulations. Congratulations! You won the Newbery! That's amazing! You love your book. I love it so much. I'm so pleased with it. So it's really overwhelming to win the Newbery, especially when you were super not expecting it, and when it feels like a leap from the blue. So nobody gave me any advice, and maybe they should have, because I thought maybe I would give you some advice, and maybe it would be helpful for you. So for example, it's an actual medal, by the way. Nobody told me that at all. I found out on the day. Okay, here it is. It's inside this it for a long time, and I hid it behind the books. Next thing, take naps. You need a freaking nap. What they ask you to do is a lot. You have to take care of yourself. That's the primary thing. You don't have to be available all the time. Take some freaking naps. I do. Well, not every day, but when I can. Oh yeah, this one. You don't have to do all of the things. You really don't. They make it seem like you do, but you don't have to do all the things. You can prioritize you if you want. So I would say a good rule of thumb is to say no to 75% of the things. You still have to do many things. That's okay, 75%. Except for this thing. You do have to do this one, and don't make the mistake I did. So write your speech early. This is important actually. Write your speech early. Because what happened to me is that I stressed out about it, and I didn't know what to say, and then I erased it like 100,000 times, and then if you're late, they yell at you. That's me. So, take my advice, don't do what I did, write your speech early. And last, have fun. Have fun. It is fun, actually. It's stressful, it's overwhelming, you're visible in a way that you never have been before, but it is actually fun. So try to have fun. That's my advice. I love your book. I think it's wonderful. I'm so glad it won. I'm so glad that it's going to have a life that is bigger than you could have imagined. That's awesome. Take care. Bye.
Again. So I was going to think about the size of it. This. That's actually about it. Okay. So show the real deal. So no criminal sympathies for it.
It's Erin. Congratulations again on your well-deserved wins. I knew it was going to happen. I sent you a message saying it was going to happen when it did. It's so well-deserved. And I just want to say that I know it feels very surreal right now, but guess what? It may still feel surreal even years later. It does for me anyway. So embrace it, celebrate it, don't take it for granted, and know that you got this because you earned it, because you deserved it. And I can't wait to read all the books that come. Congratulations again.
All right, so that's it for our official stuff, but there are frosted individual serving sizes of Bio Loaf. And I just wanted to thank Brick and Mortar Books, thank you Seattle Public Library, thank all of you for being here to celebrate this extraordinary pair of human beings and their wonderful work. Everybody, go buy a bunch of books.